It all started with a lie so small I thought it didn't even count. We were at a house party. She was standing next to a baby grand piano with a drink in her hand, asking if anyone could play. And instead of staying quiet like a normal person, I shrugged and said, "A little." That little was generous. I could plunk out the first 8 notes of Chopsticks and vaguely remembered how to play Hot Cross Buns from 2nd grade music class. That was the full extent of my expertise. But she smiled, and that smile made my stomach feel like it was hosting a trampoline competition. "Play something," she said, sitting on the edge of the piano bench and looking at me like I was the headliner of her personal concert. I panicked. I cracked my knuckles dramatically, like I was about to perform something deeply emotional. And then, I just mashed the keys. Not entirely random. I tried to make it look like I was playing something experimental. Jazz. Yeah, jazz is just chaos with confidence, right? I hit a few soft notes, then a loud one, then paused like I was reflecting on the universe. I even closed my eyes for dramatic effect. When I opened them, she looked, moved. "Wow," she whispered. "That was really unique." I nodded solemnly, as if I just shared a piece of my soul. And somehow, she bought it. She asked me to show her more sometime. I said I'd love to. The next day, she texted, "Still thinking about your piano playing. Want to grab coffee and talk music?" I could have come clean. I should have. But instead, I doubled down. I Googled easy piano songs that sound impressive. I watched tutorials. I downloaded a piano app and practiced while pretending to text. I even went to Guitar Center and pretended to be shopping for a keyboard just so I could play without judgment. Within a week, I could play exactly 3 songs decently. River Flows in You, Clocks, and a slow, haunting version of Happy Birthday. The coffee date turned into lunch. Lunch turned into dinner. And somewhere along the line, we became a thing. A real thing. The problem was, she told her friends I was this incredible self-taught pianist. And one of them happened to be organizing a local arts fundraiser with a live music lineup. "You should totally play," her friend said at dinner one night. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. It wasn't. She nodded, eyes sparkling. "Yes, please." I went home that night and stared at my reflection like it had just confessed to a crime I didn't remember committing. "You absolute idiot," I muttered. I paced. I stress ate half a sleeve of Oreos. Then I Googled how to fake being a professional pianist in public without dying. No helpful results. Just a Reddit thread about stage fright and a video of a cat walking on keys. Meanwhile, my girlfriend, yes, at this point she was officially my girlfriend, kept talking about how excited she was. "You never show off," she said, curled up next to me on the couch. "It'll be so cool to see you perform." I smiled, but inside my stomach was a kettle drum. The fundraiser was 2 weeks away. 2 weeks. I made a plan. Step 1. Buy a keyboard. Step 2. Practice like my social life depended on it. Because it did. I found a used digital piano on Facebook Marketplace, drove 40 minutes to pick it up, and convinced the seller to throw in the stand for free by telling him I was performing at a benefit concert. That part was technically true. I spent the next 13 nights in full training montage mode. No social life, no Netflix, no dignity. Just YouTube tutorials and finger cramps. I'd practice until my brain gave up and my hands did their own thing. I played River Flows in You so many times that I started dreaming in arpeggios. By night 10, I had a full 5-minute piece memorized. It sounded just emotional enough to make people think I was expressing my soul, when really, I was counting beats and praying I didn't hit the wrong note. The night before the event, she brought over takeout. "How are you feeling?" she asked, handing me a fork. "Honestly," I said, terrified, but also ready. She smiled and kissed me. "You've got this. I'm so proud of you." I swallowed hard. I had never felt more like a fraud, but also never more determined to pull it off. The day of the event arrived like an overly enthusiastic stage mom. I wore a blazer to look like someone who contemplates sonatas. My name was printed on the program under the title, Original Piece by Self-Taught Pianist. The room was packed. People sipped wine. There were fairy lights. My girlfriend waved from the front row. When the host called my name, I walked to the piano, sat down, and realized, too late, I hadn't checked what kind of piano they were using. It wasn't a keyboard. It was a baby grand. A real one. With real keys. And they felt nothing like the ones I practiced on. I sat there, fingers hovering, heart racing, palms already a little slick. The baby grand gleamed under the soft lights, mocking me gently. I could almost hear it whispering, "Oh, so you thought this would be easy?" I took a deep breath, exhaled through my nose like I'd seen real performers do in movies, and placed my hands on the keys. They felt stiffer, heavier than the ones I'd practiced on. My digital keyboard was more forgiving, like it knew I didn't belong and was trying to help me fake it. This thing? This was the real deal. It expected artistry, and I was about to feed it microwave sincerity. I started playing. Slowly, cautiously. I leaned into the first few notes of River Flows in You, trying to channel every ounce of muscle memory and raw, sweaty panic into something that resembled music. To my surprise, it worked, sort of. The notes came out softer than I expected, but they were the right ones. I kept going, occasionally speeding up in all the wrong places like a nervous waiter carrying soup. The crowd was quiet. Grace was watching me with her chin in her hand, completely entranced. And for a fleeting moment, I thought, I'm pulling this off. I'm actually doing this. Then I hit the pedal. I expected sustain. What I got was a loud, wooden thunk followed by the sharp, unmistakable sound of a pedal spring breaking. My foot froze mid-press. The sound echoed through the small room like a broken maraca. I panicked. I kept playing, pretending like it was part of the piece. I mashed the keys more gently now, hoping no one noticed that half of them were suddenly acting like they'd been unplugged from emotion. I reached the halfway mark and did the only thing I could think of. I added a dramatic pause, lifted my hands, looked into the distance like I was reflecting on the bittersweet agony of life itself. Someone in the audience exhaled meaningfully. Beautiful, I heard someone whisper. I dove back in, now improvising wildly. Not by choice, by pure, unfiltered necessity. My brain screamed, just finish. Don't stop. Make it to the end. And somehow, I did. One final arpeggio. A soft close. I lifted my hands again, part jackhammering. Silence. Then applause. Real applause. The kind with whistles and cheers. Grace stood up, clapping so hard I thought her hands might bruise. I bowed, smiled, walked off stage like I hadn't just sweated through my shirt. The organizer met me backstage, eyes wide. You didn't tell me you were that good. Oh, I said, trying to be modest. I dabble. He grinned. We need to talk. There's someone here you have to meet. Before I could object, he gently grabbed my elbow and guided me down a short hallway behind the stage. I was still riding the adrenaline high, the kind that makes you feel both like a champion and a total fraud at the same time. He was just blown away, the organizer said, looking over his shoulder. He asked me, who is that guy? And I told him, that's Daniel. He's completely self-taught. I didn't know what to say. I wasn't even fully self-taught. I was YouTube crammed at midnight, taught. Here, he said, pushing open a door. This is Miles. Inside stood a man in a turtleneck sweater, sipping from a mug labeled Mood, Allegro. He looked up with a kind smile and extended a hand. Daniel, he said. That was stunning. Thank you, I said, trying to play it cool. Really appreciate that. I run a small festival, Miles said casually, setting his mug down. Mostly classical and experimental piano. Low-key, but growing. We've been looking for someone to open our second night, fresh face, unique sound. I think you'd be perfect. My mouth went dry. My knees almost buckled. Oh, I managed to say. That's very flattering. He smiled. Think about it. We'll handle travel. It's in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. I squeaked. Nothing huge, he added. Just a 20-minute set. 20 minutes. My brain began calculating in chaos. I only had one song, and I'd barely survived it. I nodded slowly, the way you nod when someone offers you skydiving lessons and you don't want to seem scared. I'll definitely think about it. Great, he said. We'll be in touch. As I left the room, my pulse pounding in my ears, Grace appeared around the corner with a huge grin. You killed it, she said, hugging me. I mean, I knew you were good, but that was, well, I actually cried a little. Don't tell anyone. Your secret's safe, I said, hugging her back with trembling arms. But I might be in serious trouble. What do you mean? I may have just accidentally agreed to perform at a music festival in 3 weeks. She pulled back, eyes wide. Wait, seriously? Yep. That's incredible, she said, beaming. You're really doing it. I nodded again, already feeling lightheaded. Right. Really doing it. As we walked back into the main hall, the organizer handed me a folder with a glossy brochure inside. On the cover, Echo Keys Music Festival, featuring rising artists from around the world. Inside, a mock poster. My name. My face. A quote that read, raw talent. Utterly moving. Echo Keys preview panel. I had officially become the pianist version of someone who sneezed and accidentally joined the Olympics. The next morning, I woke up to 3 unread emails from Miles. One confirming my participation, one detailing travel arrangements, and one with the subject line, Setlist Thoughts. I opened it and found a polite suggestion that I perform the piece from the fundraiser, followed by a list of potential complimentary pieces that match your atmospheric style. Atmospheric style? I'd been improvising like a raccoon on a piano. I closed the laptop and sat very still for a full minute, staring at nothing. You okay? Grace asked, entering the room holding 2 mugs of coffee. Define okay, I said. Do you remember that scene in Titanic where the ship starts to tilt and people try to walk like everything's fine? That's oddly specific, she said. But yes, that's me. She sat beside me, sipped her coffee, and said, you can do this. No, Grace. I can't. I don't have a set list. I don't have atmosphere. I learned one song and faked the rest. She set her mug down and looked at me seriously. Okay, then learn more. You've got 3 weeks. You pulled it off once. You can do it again. I opened my mouth to argue, but she stopped me. Look, I've never seen you focus like you did before the fundraiser. You went full monk. You can do it again. This time, just be real about it. Be real about not being real? I asked. She smiled. No, be real about starting now. From scratch. What if this is the weirdest, most accidental gift the universe has given you? I looked at her. My girlfriend, who believed in a version of me that technically didn't exist, yet. And that was the key word, yet. I kissed her forehead. Okay, let's go find me some musical talent. Thus began the training arc, part 2. I reorganized my schedule, canceled social plans, ate meals while watching piano breakdowns, watched sheet music and spent hours just staring at it like it might decode itself. I even got a tutor. Her name was Carla. She was 73, had perfect posture, and played the piano like it had personally raised her. At our first lesson, I confessed, I don't actually know what I'm doing. She peered at me over her glasses. Well, she said, adjusting the metronome, I suppose it's time you learned. Carla was brutal. In the best way. She made me redo finger positions until I could feel my ancestors groaning. She didn't allow shortcuts. And she refused to say, good job, unless I actually earned it. But slowly, miraculously, the music started to make sense. By the end of week 1, I could play 3 actual songs without improvising mid-panic. By week 2, I was halfway through a piece Carla had written herself. You've got good instincts, she said one day, marking a note. But instincts alone won't save you on stage. Discipline will. The days ticked down. The festival loomed. My panic turned into focus. And then, just when I thought I was finally getting the hang of this, Carla handed me a newspaper clipping with a faint smirk. I looked down and nearly dropped it. The Echo Keys Festival had released their official press teaser. And on it, beneath a photo of me at the fundraiser, was a line I hadn't seen before. Opening night, featuring viral piano sensation Daniel Rhodes. Viral? I stared at the clipping like it might catch fire in my hands. Viral. I muttered, heart suddenly doing parkour in my chest. Carla sipped her tea with zero sympathy. It appears your performance was filmed. Filmed? I echoed. Who filmed it? She shrugged. Probably everyone. It's 2025. Breathing too hard in a cafe ends up on TikTok. I pulled out my phone, frantically searching my name. And there it was. A video posted on a classical music Instagram page titled, Unknown Pianist Delivers Soul-Breaking Original Piece at Fundraiser. It had 1.2 million views. One of the top comments read, this man is either a genius or crying through the piano. I'm obsessed. Another said, I want this song played at my wedding, funeral, and awkward family reunions. The caption included phrases like raw passion, self-taught brilliance, and most horrifyingly, next Ludovico Einaudi? I sank into the nearest chair, still staring at my phone. Grace is going to lose her mind. I wasn't wrong. That night, when I showed her, she screamed into a throw pillow for 6 seconds straight. You're mean, she said, eyes wide with a mix of pride and horror. You're actually, people know you. This is a disaster, I said. I can't live up to this. No, she said, waving her hands. This is insane, but also amazing. You've got a story now. Everyone loves a story. My story is that I lied and now the internet thinks I'm the reincarnation of Chopin. Exactly, she said. You're the underdog, the mysterious piano man. People are rooting for you. I buried my face in my hands. The mysterious piano man can't even sight read happy birthday without breaking into a cold sweat. Which is why, she said, pulling out her laptop, we're making a plan. Grace, bless her chaotic genius, drew up a schedule that rivaled Olympic training. Morning scales, afternoon practice, evening ear training. We even made a vision board titled, Not Getting Booed Off Stage. Carla was delighted. Fame is a good motivator, she said, taping the press clipping to her refrigerator. I had a student once who only learned Bach because a boy she liked played cello. Did it work? I asked. They're married now, she said. And she still can't stand Bach. With just a week left, I had 4 full pieces prepared and 1 sketchy improvised encore, just in case. The internet kept buzzing. Articles called me enigmatic. Music blogs speculated about my influences. One guy even posted a theory that I was a time traveler from the Romantic era. Every time I opened my phone, it got worse. And then came the email. Subject line, Elton John's team inquiry. I opened it slowly, like it might explode. It didn't. But it did say, Mr. John recently viewed your performance online. We'd like to speak with you about a potential guest appearance during his upcoming farewell tour. I read it twice. 3 times. I showed it to Grace, who blinked, then screamed into the same pillow. Again. You might open for Elton John, she whispered, breathless. That's the twist ending of a Netflix movie. No, I said quietly, as the gravity of it all settled in. That's the twist before everything explodes. I didn't respond to the Elton John email right away. I stared at it for hours like it was a pop-up ad for a parallel universe I had no business entering. Grace paced the apartment like a campaign manager prepping a debate. You can't not reply, she said for the 5th time. What if it's real? That's exactly what I'm afraid of, I muttered, still frozen in front of my screen. I eventually wrote the world's most awkwardly humble email. Hi. Thank you so much for the message. I'd be honored to discuss further, though I should clarify I'm very early in my musical journey. I hit send and immediately wanted to crawl into a sock drawer. Meanwhile, Echo Keys posted a new promotional teaser, this time featuring a dramatic black and white photo of me looking pensive, which was actually me mid-eye twitch. The caption? The mystery maestro, catch him opening night. Carla nearly dropped her tea. They're turning you into a myth, she said. Careful. If you play well, you're a genius. If you bomb, you're an art experiment. Cool. No pressure. Every night that week, I practiced until my back ached. My fingers began to move faster, smoother, still not perfect, but getting there. At one point, I caught myself adding a little flair. A dynamic pause. A soft decrescendo. Real musical stuff. And it felt right? Like the lie was slowly becoming truth. On the final rehearsal day, Carla patted my shoulder. You're not just faking it anymore, she said. You're playing. I almost cried. Grace baked me cookies shaped like tiny pianos and made me promise not to hurl during the performance. The morning of the festival, I put on my best button down, carried my sheet music like it was ancient scrolls, and stared at myself in the mirror. You're a pianist, I whispered. My reflection looked skeptical, but at least it didn't laugh. We arrived at the venue just as a local news crew was setting up. A reporter waved at me. You're Daniel, right? The piano guy? Mind if we chat before the show? I blinked. Sure. Grace squeezed my hand as I walked toward the camera crew, and just before the mic went live, the reporter leaned in and said, By the way, Elton's team is in the audience. My throat dried instantly. Elton's team was here, breathing the same air, possibly seated on those very foldable chairs 10 feet away, waiting to see if the mystery pianist lived up to the myth the internet had inflated like a bounce house at a toddler's party. I smiled stiffly for the camera. The reporter asked basic questions, where I was from, what inspired my sound, how it felt to go viral. I answered with vague enthusiasm and prayed they didn't ask anything too musical. They didn't. Thank every piano-shaped cloud in the sky. Then it was time. I walked backstage, heart hammering like a death metal drummer, and peeked through the curtain. Grace stood in the front row, giving me a thumbs up and mouthing, You've got this. I took my place on stage. The piano was pristine, tuned, glowing under soft blue lights. I bowed, sat, and rested my fingers on the keys. And then I played. The first piece flowed like water, Carla's original composition, the one I practiced until I could hear it in my dreams. I hit every note. My hands moved with a confidence that felt almost borrowed. The crowd was silent, hanging on every phrase. I moved into the second piece, a gentle rendition of Clocks, and when I looked up, I saw camera flashes. People recording. Head swaying. At one point, I glanced toward the VIP section and spotted 2 men whispering and nodding. One of them tapped something into his phone. My stomach flipped. I ended with a quiet, reflective original I'd cobbled together just days before. It wasn't perfect. A missed note here, a rushed phrase there. But it was mine. I pressed the final chord and let it linger, the air thick with that special kind of silence that follows music that lands just right. Applause erupted. Real applause. Standing ovation. Grace jumped up first. Carla wiped her eyes. And those 2 guys in the front row? They clapped too. Calm, professional. But one of them gave a small nod. A real one. I stood, bowed again, and walked off stage trembling, but this time, not from fear. Backstage, Miles greeted me with a wide grin. Daniel, he said, they want to talk to you again. Now. My knees nearly buckled. Now. I asked, voice cracking like a preteen in a school play. Miles just grinned wider and gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder. Now. He guided me down a hallway buzzing with post-show energy, people clinking glasses, murmuring praise, someone singing off-key near the caterer's table, and into a quiet lounge. Inside sat two men in black blazers. Polished, serious, the kind of people who probably wore wristwatches that cost more than my car. "Daniel," one of them said, standing to shake my hand. "I'm Roger. This is Ian. We're part of Mr. John's creative team." My palm was sweaty, but I hoped my handshake wasn't. "Hi," I said, followed by a weird half-laugh that came out as a wheeze. "Great show," Roger said, nodding. "You've got a unique presence. You've been classically trained?" I paused. "Sort of. Late bloomer. We've worked with a lot of classically trained musicians," Ian added. "But not many can hold a crowd like that." "That's kind of you," I said, praying my face didn't give away the fact that my classical training consisted mostly of panic, cookies, and a 73-year-old woman with zero patience for mediocrity. Roger leaned in slightly. "Elton's final tour has a few openers slotted for international dates. Smaller sets, big exposure. We think you might be a good fit. Interested?" I blinked. "Yes," I said. "Too fast. Too loud. Very interested." "It wouldn't be for a few months," Ian said. "You'd get time to prep, work with our tech team, and we'd want to see how you handle a larger audience. But tonight, you passed the vibe check." Did he just say vibe check? Was I hallucinating? "We'll email you this week," Roger added. "Expect contracts, tech specs. Nothing official yet, but let's say we're optimistic." I nodded so much I felt dizzy. "Thank you," I whispered. "Really? Thank you." We shook hands again, and I left the room with Miles giving me a look like he was about to burst into jazz hands. Grace was waiting just beyond the hallway, holding 2 paper cups of water. "Well?" she asked, eyes gleaming. I took the cup, sipped, and whispered, "I think I just accidentally joined Elton John's farewell tour." She blinked, then burst into laughter so hard she had to sit down on a folding chair. "You're kidding." "I'm not." She looked up at me, beaming. "You are officially the world's most dramatic fake-it-till-you-make-it story." And I couldn't even disagree. The next few days were a blur of emails, paperwork, and me practicing like my fingers had committed a crime and needed redemption. Elton's team sent over a tentative tour schedule, tech specs for each venue, and something called a hospitality writer that asked me to list any backstage snacks I preferred. I stared at it blankly. Was emotional support cookies too specific? I typed trail mix and hoped for the best. Carla, of course, was beside herself. "I taught you how to sit at the piano correctly 5 weeks ago," she said, fanning herself with a Beethoven biography. "Now you're going to Tokyo?" "Apparently," I said, still not convinced this wasn't a stress-induced fever dream. Grace was loving it. She started referring to herself as my manager-girlfriend hybrid and created a spreadsheet titled Tour Stuff So You Don't Ruin Everything. She made me business cards. She started tagging every sandwich we ate as pre-fame carbs. But despite all the excitement, I couldn't shake one thought. I was still the guy who didn't know what a treble clef really meant a month ago. And now I was one power outage away from being exposed in front of thousands. So, I doubled down, practiced obsessively, learned new pieces, started composing my own, real ones this time. I played so much that the skin on my pinky started peeling from repetition. I wore it like a badge of honor. Then came the press requests. First local, then national. Everyone wanted to know more about the viral pianist with no conservatory training. One interviewer asked what inspired my first piece, the one I'd fumbled through at the fundraiser. "Panic," I said before I could stop myself. "It was mostly panic." She laughed. I didn't correct her. Better to be mysterious than honest at this point. And somehow, the buzz kept growing. Music blogs called me a symbol of raw artistry. One publication said I had the vulnerability of Enotti with the spontaneity of a storm. Carla printed that one and taped it above her piano. "Don't let it go to your head," she said, patting my shoulder. "But also, you deserve it." That night, I sat at my keyboard, playing softly while Grace hummed in the other room, and for the first time, I realized I wasn't faking it anymore. I'd faked my way into it, sure. But somewhere along the line, through lies, late nights, and love, I'd actually become the person I'd pretended to be. Almost. The night before I left for the first tour stop, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, fingers twitching with phantom melodies, heart fluttering like a bird stuck in a cathedral. Grace turned to me in the dark. "You okay?" "Nervous," I whispered. "But also excited?" "That's the right mix," she said. "Like the first drop on a roller coaster. Terrifying and kind of addictive." I laughed softly. "Do you think I'm ready?" She rolled over, rested her hand on my chest. "I think you became ready the moment you decided to stop pretending." I didn't reply. I just squeezed her hand and let that settle in my chest like the final note of a song that somehow landed just right. The next morning, we drove to the airport in silence. She waited at the curb, hands in the pockets of my hoodie sheet stolen weeks ago. Text me every day, she said. I want snack updates and applause volume ratings. Deal. And no matter what happens out there, she added, stepping closer, just remember, you already won the weirdest game of musical charades in history. I grinned. Noted. Then she kissed me, once, slow and steady, and I boarded the plane. My seatmate asked if I was a musician. I paused. Yeah, I said, smiling. I guess I am. The stage lights were blinding. Thousands of faces stretched into the dark beyond them. The first time I sat at that grand piano on an actual stadium stage, no less, I felt my hands shake. Not from fear this time, but from awe. I took a breath, just like Carla taught me. Thought of grace. Of fake root canals and emergency jazz at house parties. And then I played. Not perfectly. I missed a note or two. But the music came from somewhere real now. Every key told the truth I once tried to fake. When I finished, there was a second of silence, then thunder. The crowd roared. I stood, bowed, and smiled like someone who knew, finally, who they were. Backstage, a man with a headset handed me a note. One line, typed in all caps, SIR Elton says nice work. Stick around. I did. I'm still sticking around.